It's Friday the 5th of June 2026. The time, as always, is 10 past tomorrow. And right now, I'm going to talk about the most expensive AI conversation in your organization that probably actually hasn't happened yet. But it's about to soon because the shape of how AI is being priced is actually changing under our feet. Right now, most of the noise about this conversation and this change in the cost of AI and the way it's being priced is coming out of AI companies themselves and also probably mainly software engineering companies. So it could actually feel like this conversation is someone else's problem. But for you as a non-technical, non-software engineering company, this will be your conversation and this will be your challenge soon too. I think the same conversation that I'm about to explain is heading to every senior leadership team who are running a knowledge work business in New Zealand. And the reason I'm introducing it early is I want to get ahead of it because how you read this coming very likely ramp in your AI bills is going to matter probably more than you think. So I'm actually only starting to have like the leading edge of this conversation with some of our clients right now. And they're quiet conversations and they're not happening much yet because the first instances of this trend and of this conversation is actually only happening for the teams who are fully invested in AI agents and they're paying for them through their API connections and token use rather than the packaged monthly $20 or $30 per month subscriptions that we've become used to over the last few years. So some examples, picture the marketing manager whose team is now producing twice the output, but the AI bill for her team has gone from $90 a month to $900 a month. Or the partner in a 40-person law firm where the juniors are using Harvey, the tool, and drafting 4 times faster, but the AI line is now the third biggest piece of their software spend. Or imagine the general manager of a 60-person consultancy firm looking at his Claude bill and asking me with a completely straight face, am I actually getting value for what I'm paying for here? Those first 2 examples were hypotheticals, but that last one was actually a real example. And it's actually the same conversation every time. It's the monthly price of AI for them is now far bigger than they expected, but the question is actually exactly the same as what firms have been asking for the last few years. Is this worth it? Is the price worth it? So let's have a look at some overseas case studies of what people and companies who've already gone deep in this are doing. So first example, Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of JP Morgan, he's publicly said recently that his bank is spending $2 billion a year on AI, and they're getting $2 billion a year in savings, like productivity savings back. And his words, not mine, were, this is the tip of the iceberg. Now, you could quite rightly say that's the kind of phrase that you can use when you've got $18 billion available, in your tech budget. And yes, we kind of have to extrapolate from that case study, which is about one of the biggest banks in the world, to your typical New Zealand organization. But the point stands is that JP Morgan does knowledge work, right? They just do it at scale. And one of the more cautious CEOs in global banking finance is actually doubling down on his AI spend, right? Another example we could look at, there was a Thomson Reuters report this year on professional services where they surveyed 1,500 professional services firms across 27 countries, law and tax and accounting and government, marketing, advertising, financial advisory, professional services, etc., etc. What they showed was across those 1,500 firms, AI use had nearly doubled in a single year. So it had gone up 22% in 2025. It's already up another 40% in 2026. There's also Grant Thornton's CFO survey, which came out this quarter, which said 68% of CFOs are raising tech and digital spend. And that is the highest reading in 21 quarters. I think it's worth remembering there that CFOs don't typically move at a fast rate just based on hype. They're generally people who only move on evidence. So all of this is to say that the serious AI adopters who are already in the agentic era of AI, they're not waiting for the price to come down. They're absorbing that cost and they're pressing harder on it. So the question is why? It's because they're seeing the payoffs, right? So let's switch tack a bit and look at some examples. Like I'll show you some examples of what the actual price rises are that I'm referring to. So Harvey, which I referred to a couple of minutes ago, that's an AI platform that's built specifically for the legal industry, for lawyers. 12 months ago, it largely sat in the same bucket as every other AI tool, which was the subscription was about $30 a month, with which you could do what you like within reason. Today, it's mainly, there still is subscription, but mainly it's priced now on API and token usage because they've introduced agents into the platform. And so the monthly bills, you look at these, for some of like the bigger legal firms that are using it, they're landing in this like serious 5-figure territory per month for those who are using it properly. You've got the same story in customer service. Their dominant platform is one called Sierra, which is apparently now used by 40% of the Fortune 50 companies in the US. Also in the US, in healthcare, in that industry, they're running the same pattern, mainly with a tool that's coming to the fore called a bridge. And that's been deployed now across more than 250 US hospital systems. Also running on agents, right? You're seeing a pattern here. In investment banking and asset management, there's a platform called Hebia that is dominating, that's now used by 40% of the world's largest asset managers. So all of them, I said you're seeing a pattern. They've moved on from the chatbot era. They're deploying real usable, powerful agents into their platforms. And so they've also moved on from that $20 a month subscription pricing model. And so that's what I'm really flagging here, is to say, when I say I'm ahead of the conversation for you, if you follow this trend, I think we're looking at the end of that cute monthly subscription pricing. I think that's on all of our horizons now. So the commentary is, and I believe this, increasingly these platforms will be priced against the people that the tech companies want you to be substituting them for. So from now on, I think we should all expect to see more and more of these vertical industry AI platforms. Pick your industry, but they'll start at the top where the most value is: legal, accounting, advisory, medicine, auditing, financial analysis. And I think it's highly likely that we'll see the pricing start to be thousands or tens of thousands a year per seat. And that's because they'll be priced against the roles that they are, augmenting, to put it euphemistically. These tech companies are wanting to augment these roles, and those roles cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in average salary. So the equation changes, and it's a completely different financial conversation that's coming rather than the one our businesses are set up to have, and what we've been looking at with subscription models for the last few years, right? And the fact that the number of conversations that I have with senior leadership teams saying, "Oof, is there value in $30 a month for tool X?" That conversation is about to be on steroids. So we need your finance team, leadership team, board of directors, whoever signs off on the software budgets. That conversation's about to go out of date for us all in a hurry, right? So that's why I want to get ahead of the hype and the panic before it gets here. That's why I'm writing and delivering this essay ahead of time, before most of the companies in New Zealand are actually thinking about this or talking about this. Because I think that if we can get ahead of the hype and the panic, my hope is that the question around this is less of like, is this spend justified? And more, we can spend more time discussing, well, what actually would make this type of spend pay off, right? And the answer is the same every time. It's AI skill and literacy. Skill and literacy at the leadership level, at the operational level, both, all of the above. And the skills and literacy need to be built with deliberate and strategic programs, not just blind hope that people will pick up AI skills and literacy by accident, right? There's a recent survey done by SmarterX, who is run by Paul Raitzer, who a lot of you will know that I recommend you follow. 2,100 professionals. This came out last week. Quoted that 74% of them say AI is now critical or very important to their work, but the same ones say only 25% of their companies have actually scaled training for them. So that's the gap, that's the AI skill and literacy gap, pure and simple, right? The individuals, 74% of them want the skills, and if they're in that 25, if they actually have them, it's because they've largely taught themselves on the side, right? So the organizations that they work for have still not deliberately built the skill and the capability and the understanding and the confidence to be using these tools to the edge of their capabilities or to the full extent of their capabilities. So even now in the chatbot subscription era, the spend is going in, but the value isn't necessarily coming out because still nobody, in this generalization, but no one knows how to use the tools properly, right? So the AI bills look like waste, and that waste pile is about to become massively bigger once these pricing models morph from subscriptions to pay per use API agentic pricing, right? So uh, go back to that CEO of JP Morgan again, $2 billion in AI costs, $2 billion out in productivity savings. At the other end, you might say, why bother doing all of that if it's a net? If it's a net nothing, it's not a net nothing. Think of all that time, that productivity savings, and what that can now go into in terms of innovation, in terms of customer service, and in terms of producing new revenue lines. So but behind that story, if you've been watching, JP Morgan have been investing in AI training across its workforce for the last couple of years. The leadership knows what it's directing, and the operational layer underneath, they have the skills to use the tools. So at both ends of that conversation, they know what they're doing with AI, and that's why the AI investment, the spend, makes sense to them. So I'll say it again, if you don't build AI skill and literacy throughout the company, the spend is a waste. It's a waste at $20 per month, and it's a bigger waste at $200 a month, which is coming, right? So if you do make that investment in the literacy and skill, though, the spend is actually evolutionary for your business. So to me, the size of the numbers are about to scale up. I will put a caveat here. There's actually an asterisk, which is to say there is something to be considered with China and their strategy to their AI build and deployment, where they're trying to build equally powerful or slightly less powerful models than the US and then release them for free. And they're doing that, primarily just to disrupt the revenue models and the business strategy of the AI companies in the States, right? So that is the one like wild card that we've got to keep an eye on. That aside, the size of the numbers are about to scale up, right? What I've just said could put a slight handbrake on them, but the numbers are going to scale up in terms of what we're needing to spend on these tools. The question's still the same though. It's not whether to spend on AI, it's whether your organization has built the skills and the literacy to convert that spend into anything worth having, right? Will you get the ROI back? Because so it won't surprise any of you to hear me say that's a leadership call, full stop. Your accountant can't make that for you, neither can your IT person, neither can your financial controller. Actually, they are part of the leadership that makes that decision. So what the question is, does leadership have enough context now to be able to look at that spend and understand what it's actually buying, and to know whether the people have the skill and the literacy to turn that spend into ROI, right? Because that spend is not the only thing that's scaling up for the organizations using these new pricing models, so is their ROI, right? For them, the bigger build represents something else. They don't just see it as expense, they see it as the cost for the work that they're doing now at a speed and a scale and a level of innovation that they just couldn't do before, right? They can make decisions now at speed that they couldn't make before. They can They have customer experiences that their competitors can't meet because their competitors didn't build the same AI foundation in their people. So I reckon the leaders who get this right over the coming year, and I mean the leaders who actually invest in AI skill and literacy, not just the licenses, and they're truly reshaping the work they're doing inside their four walls. Those are the leaders, those are the organizations that will end up holding something that their competitors just can't buy back simply by spending more in the agentic era. As I say, this is a forward conversation. I believe the themes are things that we're about to see in New Zealand. They're happening overseas on the, at the tip, the canary down the mine. If you are starting to see it in New Zealand, or if you're thinking about this, I would love to hear your thoughts either in the comments under this video or find me over on LinkedIn and let's engage over there. Otherwise, see you next week for another discussion.